Hey, I'm Saul from Hello Partner, and I'm really happy to be joined today by Adam Ross from Awin, CEO of Awin. Adam, thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Good to see you, Saul.
And first of all, I wanted to ask you about your Awin sponsorship at PI Live Europe this year. Why did you decide to sponsor us?
We love PI Live, and we've been, I think, the headline sponsor for a number of years. I don't even want to count anymore because it just makes me feel old. But we've always been a big supporter of this event, and I think it's one of the best events on the calendar. And I think that's largely because you have really good content. You really think carefully about the content that you put on, and that's so important for events like this, so that you can launch ideas as we're trying to do, have interesting debates. And we just think it's a really both an important time on the calendar, with the time of year that it is, really in the middle of Q4 and preparing for the busiest month of November. But also just great to get together in person with clients, partners from not just the UK now, really from around the world that come to this event because they know the quality nature of it and have those great discussions and meetings and networking. It's really a superb event and a great venue.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioning content, I mean, Awin always puts on great content at PI Live. Last year we had the dating show
Yeah.
set up, which was really popular. And this year, we've got something really exciting going on. You're going to be launching the Conversion Protection Initiative during
Yeah,
your session. Could you actually tell us a little bit more about what that is?
sure. So I have to give you a bit of background first. And, I've been in the industry a long time, 20 years now. And one of the things that first attracted me to the industry, and I think also continues to attract people to the industry today, and certainly attracts investment from brands, is that it's underpinned by, I think, one of the most elegant and pure of commercial models, and that's CPA, cost per acquisition. It's not assumed sales, it's not worked back to a CPA, it's pure performance, pay for performance, and even then also only on validated sales. So it's really a wonderful thing. And I think what we have to all accept as we sit here today is that over the last 5, 6, 7, maybe even longer years, so many things have come to undermine that thing that we hold dear, that ability to track and have a pure pay for performance industry. So whether it's GDPR, and I'm not here sort of saying that GDPR was a bad thing, I very much believe in protecting user privacy, but nevertheless, it has its implications for our industry. But we've also got ad blockers, multiple versions of ITP, ATT, Brave browser, Firefox browser, all making changes. The list really goes on. And I think whilst the industry has developed really super sophisticated ways to track, developing them is not enough, right? They have to be used and they have to be standard. They can't be optional. And I think rather than what we have been doing, which is really shrugging our shoulders and accepting an ever increasing amount of free sales driven through our channel, what we want to do is implement, firstly, sort of a real drive towards more accurate deterministic tracking. And so the adoption of the latest tracking methods, whether that's server to server, app tracking, whatever. But also we want to introduce a form of probabilistic tracking. And that's to shore up areas where the deterministic tracking isn't possible for whatever reason. So our sort of vision is that future programs, future tracking tech stacks will have a mix of both deterministic and probabilistic. But the guiding principle behind it is that we want, and I think we should all want this as an industry, as much deterministic tracking as possible. So as much of that good stuff with the latest sophisticated methods. But where we can't do it, We can't just sit back and say, okay, we accept that. We're going to just allow loads of free sales. We're going to introduce this probabilistic methodology, which is going to be fully data backed. And we are setting a date for this to be introduced. So the date for this is going to be by April the 7th next year. And the message is, use that time to get tracking to as high a standard as you possibly can. But where we can't, we will have a very robust backup method. And I think in doing so, we're hoping to restore some integrity to our industry.
Amazing. Yeah, I think the industry's been crying out for something like this for a long time now. With the deterministic side of things, are you developing a kind of technological solution that will ensure a better deterministic approach?
Well, that's always been a huge area of investment for us, and we have super sophisticated methods, and we always maintain a team of experts that's dedicated on developing that and improving it. And we're absolutely committed to continuing to do that. We actually feel that in where we are now is we have a very good solution for this. We have solutions that bring great deals more accuracy than you see when they're not used, and we have evidence to prove this. And by the way, I'm not trying to. I don't want to create sort of any sort of competitive advantage out of this. I think I would say that all our competition, all the platforms have really good solutions for tracking. The challenge is making sure that they're used, making sure, as I said, that they're standard and not optional. And what we want to do by introducing this alternative method is also to set a deadline and say clearly to people that you've got to use these. If you can use them, you should use them. And that's what we're doing. So, and by the way, in direct answer to your question, continue to evolve that and improve that over time for sure.
And you mentioned that this is going to be a kind of server to server based approach. How is this going to impact clients' partnerships as opposed to going through the master tag instead?
Well, generally we try and do with our integrations, we try and do all of those things, and it's about advertisers adopting the entire tracking tech stack. So it'll be server to server, app tracking, master tag, and everything in between. We have a sort of gold standard that we expect advertisers to implement, and generally speaking, there's generally very few reasons why they can't do that. So we're just trying to make sure that that happens so that people have as much deterministic tracking on their programs as possible in the future. But what this does for advertiser publisher relationships is it brings accuracy. It ensures that good quality work is rewarded. I mean, so much effort goes into building and creating quality affiliate partnerships. And it's a really sad thing to think that significant portions of that are not fairly measured or rewarded. I mean, why would you put in all that effort to create these great partnerships if you're not sure that they're going to be measured and rewarded correctly? I don't think that's in anyone's interests. And so I think keeping the money flowing in this great virtuous circle that we have through our industry, that's absolutely essential for innovation. We want our partners to be able to invest in their user and customer experiences so that they can continue to drive more traffic, higher quality traffic, better sales for advertisers. And then I think another point is, we recently celebrated the APMA's work on assessing the size of the industry, and it produced great results, and we're celebrating that. And we want that because it shows that this is a great place to invest, and we want to attract more investment, and it's shown great growth. The sad reality is that even though that number was impressive, we think it's massively underreported because of these issues. How much bigger could it be if we actually solve this problem? So I think this will bring great change and benefit to the entire affiliate ecosystem and massively improve the quality of advertiser and publisher partnerships over time.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was talking to the Moonpool team. They hosted a thing the other day that Awin was at.
Yeah.
Sadly, I couldn't attend. And one publisher there estimated that they've lost 20 million pounds already this year because of conversions, just not
Yeah,
going for not being tracked properly.
yeah.
Um, you mentioned a April 2025 deadline. So what do people need to make sure they've got in place for that deadline? And what will happen to those who fail to make the necessary upgrades by that time?
So that's a great question. And the reason why we've given, I think, a very generous amount of time in between announcing this and that deadline is because we understand that this is not necessarily a straightforward, easy thing for a number of reasons. First of all, you got a budget for it, you got a plan for it. Secondly, it requires some technical work, so that takes time to plan in. And so that's why that period is there. It's really to give people a moment in time that they can plan towards, both financially and from a technical standpoint. And I think it's ample time to get everything in place. And all we're saying is that from that point, April the 7th, 2025, if you've not been able to do that for whatever reason, then we're going to use probabilistic methodology to shore up the gaps so that your relationships continue to thrive. And we'll use a huge amount of data and experience to make that as accurate as possible. And so, there's going to be a lot of modeling going into that formula. It's going to include historic data from the advertiser's program, aggregated data that we have related to average uplifts that we see when people do make these upgrades, and wider benchmark data from the industry. So really kind of robust model. And what advertisers will see after that deadline is that if they haven't got those upgrades, then they're going to have more of that probabilistic tracking on their programs than maybe deterministic, where there's going to be a different balance between deterministic and probabilistic. But we'll work with advertisers to understand that as the deadline comes.
Hmm. And it seems like this is kind of arriving at quite a good time as well, because I'm sure you've seen the ICO updated their guidelines around consent and affiliate tracking the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So particularly for cashback and loyalty sites, they have now clarified that they are basically exempt from requiring consent, which represents a significant shift. Um, does the CPI how does this affect the CPI? I would
Yeah.
expect it makes it stronger and easier to actually move along in a way.
Yeah. I think that this is a great development to get more clarity on that. We actually already had guidance from the French regulator on the same topic quite a while ago. But now that we've had another regulator, another data authority saying the same thing, I think this strengthens the argument. I think it gives really important clarity to quite a complex topic. We have technology that allows advertisers to called consent signals, that allows advertisers to treat those cashback and reward cookies as strictly necessary. So we're going to use this to drive adoption of that technology. And also, I think, making it a standard thing as well for new integrations, which is something we're working on right now. But also, I think, using this moment to encourage advertisers to share with us the accept and reject rates coming from their consent management platforms. Because we obviously understand that everybody has to comply with the law and the law makes sense. But people have different interpretations of it, and different CMPs work in different ways. And we've seen huge variances in the data from these platforms and in the effects of these platforms, which could be really quite serious for affiliate programs. So I think what our goal is going to be is to create much more transparency around this, and then using the CPI methodology to eventually provide compensation where we see the true size and scale of the impact of this. So I think what you'll see is that the CPI will develop to become a method that advertisers can use to compensate for consent issues over time, once we get more clarity and once we understand the reaction of DPOs to this new guidance from the ICO.
Amazing. And for advertisers as well, who they might not really understand this, how do I actually make these upgrades? Will Awin be offering support for them to actually make the necessary upgrades in time for April?
Absolutely. So we've dedicated additional resource to coincide with this announcement to really help people during this period to get over the line. We understand that in Q4, particularly for the retail sector, that's unlikely, right? Generally speaking, people don't make major technical changes during that period. But we expect that from the beginning of the year, we're going to start to see more and more people doing this, and we're on hand to assist. Absolutely.
I was also curious as to why now? What was the impetus for launching this initiative now in Q4 2024?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's something we've been thinking about for a long time because, as I mentioned, we've been living through this period of disruption for quite some time, and we felt that really this was a moment to draw a line in the sand and say we can't allow this to continue anymore because it's really damaging the industry over the long term. And if we want to preserve the health and integrity of this industry, we have to do something. Um, the reason why we're choosing now to announce it is really because we also want to give people that grace period. We understand, as I mentioned, that it's complex. It's not just straightforward. You got to do it now. People need time to absorb it, to plan for it, to understand it. So really, we would love to have it in place tomorrow, but we have to be practical. We have to be pragmatic in how we approach these things. So that's why we've gone with this grace period, and it gives everybody plenty of time to get everything in order. It gives us time to hold people's hands through it, to understand it better. And we hope that, therefore we can sort of make 2024 the last year where this has a huge impact on the industry and move forward into 2025, or certainly the second half of 2025 with this resolved. And I think then we'll really start to see the benefits of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it sounds like a fantastic initiative. I think more clarity between publishers and advertisers can only be a good thing. And, the probabilistic method as well to reward publishers if the upgrades aren't met, that might be a sting for advertisers, but it's what publishers need to kind of confidently feel like they can continue to work with advertisers at the same time. So it seems like this is going to be a great thing for publisher advertiser relationships, especially, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And looking ahead to 2025, could you tell me a little bit about what Awin's broader plans and key goals are for the year?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I think CPI, as I've mentioned, and tracking is clearly a massive goal. This idea of restoring the integrity of the industry and trying to establish the true value that we drive. That's number one on the agenda for us. But aside from that, which we've spoken about quite a lot, we've got some really exciting geographic expansion plans. I can't say where, but I think that's going to be really significant for the company and very exciting for the company. We're investing a lot into AI. So we've already done a bit of that with publisher matching and using LLMs for partners to build profiles in our platform. But we're working with OpenAI to see what more value LLMs can bring to the industry. And that's, I think, a really interesting piece of work. We're investing lots into the US and unifying our brands and our platform there. So those who know will have seen we operate both Awin US and ShareASale in the US. We're going to be bringing that together, upgrading all ShareASale customers to the Awin experience throughout 2025. As you can imagine, a huge project, a lot of teams involved with that, but it's very important that, for our continued US growth story. And on top of that, in addition to continuing all our seasonal releases on our platform, so we've been releasing a lot of new tech every quarter on our platform, and we're going to continue that. But a big focus next year is on what we call our self-service experience. So our platform's becoming much more intelligent, much more intuitive, and we're super excited about this because it's long been the case that affiliate marketing has been quite complex for users, difficult for them to engage with, and what we want to try and do is make the experience much more simple and get our users to the point where they achieve growth and value and results from the channel much faster. And that's a lot about investing in technology and UX. And I've seen some of the plans for that already, and they look really great. And lastly, I think it would be amiss not to mention that next year is also our 25th anniversary. And so we're going to be marking the occasion by hosting a global think tank event in Vila Moura in Portugal, which is a beautiful location. It's May the 19th to the 22nd next year. We're lining up great speakers for that at the moment. We've got SEO expert Lily Ray. We've got NYU marketing professor and host of the Pivot podcast, Scott Galloway, who I'm a big fan of, and more big names to come. So I think it promises to be our best think tank ever, and we're looking forward to seeing many of our partners there.
Oh, exciting. That sounds great. I'm a big Lily Ray fan, so
Yeah, should be good.
hopefully I'll come along to that.